just wish your friends were as mature as you.
They are mature, actually. You just have to get to know them better.
Paging Dr. Faggot! Dr. Faggot!
I should go.
That's a good idea, Dr. Faggot.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back!
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's ride!
Hey guys, it's 7:02, but if you're consulting my computer, it is 6:59 still. So I am early and I'm late. Well, that's just something they got to figure out some later on. Every once in a while the clocks align and then they just drift apart again. It's almost like the poles. You know how we have that kind of like polar drift. And, well, that's just, I'll figure that out later. Anyway, it's going to be a great show tonight. It is Wednesday, July 8th, 2026. And tonight we have a good friend of ours in studio. His name is Jamboy Gulinello.
Jamboy?
Jamboy. We learned all about Jamboys this week. You know what a Jamboy is?
I don't think so.
A Jamboy was a role that some early 19th century Indian boys would have to play out for their British colonial friends out there, the British gentry out in India who wanted to play a nice round of golf. They didn't want to be bothered by all of the malaria-ridden mosquitoes. Instead, they would have a jam boy to lather himself up in jam so that
to attract
the mosquitoes to them instead of the golfers. And then,
I could use one of those because I am a mosquito magnet.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And the best thing was that, at the end of the day, the jam boys, they can actually take the jam on their bodies home to feed their families.
Wow, that's so nice of them.
Very, very generous of the British. It's a very British thing to do.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I know. Well, anyway, that's what we learned this week on Quite Frankly. Completely useless, probably not real. So
thanks for stopping by.
I don't know what else to do anymore. Anyway, so it's going to be a good one tonight because, the title of the show, if you guys haven't seen it yet, is We Outsmarted Ourselves. We grew up hearing from a far more wise generation or generations before us who would say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, there's a lot of people out there trying to fix things that ain't broke. And I think sometimes they might actually just be stupid enough to think that they're fixing something that is broke. And other times they are just demolitionists who are going and planting their charges and blowing things up under the guise of something that people would, outwardly accept.
Yeah.
And just have people do themselves in that way. Well, tonight we have a whole bunch of stuff going on. On the West Coast, there are activists that are pushing for a renewed push. I remember this happening when I was young, in the 90s, like in elementary school. I remember hearing something called, because we all had phonics. in class. You know, in school when we were young, everybody would take out your phonics book, and we would learn English through phonetics and trying to sound things out, just like we had penmanship scores as well.
I didn't do too well in that class.
I know handwriting, penmanship, phonics. You know, are you pronunciating? Do you sound like you're educated? All that other stuff. Well, around that time, I remember that was the first time I ever heard the word ebonics, and it's still a very relevant thing for some people, and it's being pushed in California. They want to make sure that black and brown kids in the United States are as illiterate and stupid sounding as possible.
I don't think I ever put that together. So that's a combination of ebony and phonics?
I guess so.
Huh. What do you know? I just learned something else today.
Well,
in the first 5 minutes of the show.
Listen, it's going to be good. It's going to be a good one.
Okay.
I'll tell you. But, and then of course, in the second half, we have to talk about another guy that I don't know who knows if what he did and has been doing in a very public way has broken what was not, has broken or tried to fix what was not broken. It certainly had to contribute to something. That Bryan Johnson guy who billed himself as someone who is racing toward immortality has a pretty incurable situation going on right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the first time we ever spoke about him was when he was doing the blood transfusion to his son from his father. It was this kind of hand-me-down blood transfusion.
No. He took the blood from his son and he gave his blood to his father.
So it was an upscale. It was an upcycling of the blood.
Yes.
Yeah. That was the first time that I ever ran across him. And then he kind of exploded into the biohacking world, which, upsets me a little bit because there is, like everything, there's some value to what he's doing, no doubt. But what I want to talk about is missing the forest for the trees, like the real big, because we could go into the details and I'm sure we will to some degree, but he really is missing the mark. And I think this is a great opportunity to educate people and to reiterate the things that you and I have been talking about since I first started coming on the show, almost 5 years ago now. October will be 5 years.
You mean edumacate?
Right. Sorry. Edumacate. Yes. We're going to edumacate you big time.
Yeah. There's that. Well, it's going to be a great night. We have a lot of cool stuff and it all ties together. I try to find things that tie together so I can have a nice, snappy title. Okay. That isn't like a thesaurus, isn't like I used to have titles like indexes and I'm trying, Jay, I'm trying to learn the ways over here. But everybody at home, I just want to let you guys know that tomorrow, here is the plan for like the broadcast schedule for the rest of the week. Tomorrow at 12 noon, I will be going live on quitefrankly.tv on pilled.net. I'll be going live there to tape. It'll be a live taping of a interview catch-up session broadcast that I'm going to have with our good old friend, James, Black Conservative Patriot. It's been a while since we talked to BCP. And I'm going to be recording with him live, so you can watch it live and be in the chat room at 12 noon. That broadcast will be premiered on YouTube and Rumble at 7 p.m., the normal time, because I will be going down to the city on the east side to go see Anthony perform his song at the Bon Scott tribute show that's put on by Bon Scott of AC/DC's estate. So he was asked to go and perform a song, and so I'm going to go down there. Jay's going to meet me down there. So at some point tomorrow night, I think that it should be possible for me to go live on the phone at least once. So, again, I would be limited to just going live on YouTube. So make sure that you have your subscriptions on, your subscription and your notification on, so that you can hang out with us on location for a little bit. And there you go. On Friday morning, I'll be doing the Friday morning show. On Friday night, we will be doing the Playhouse. Me, Anthony, our friend Kyle will be in. We'll be talking about what happens Thursday night. I have a couple other fun things to do Friday night. I'll make sure I syndicate at least the first hour of that on Quite Frankly so that we make up for lost time on Thursday. And then Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time is our first Saturday night special of the month of July. And that's going to be here with my father, my cousin Jeff and my brother Anthony. That'll be on quitefrankly.tv exclusively. And we'll be just talking 4th of July's past and going through family video and having a ball like we usually do. And that's it'll be a good week. So do not worry that we will not be live at 7 o'clock tomorrow, because something will be premiering at 7 that you haven't seen before. There will be another live stream popping up somewhere along the way. And then Friday and Saturday, you're getting bonus. So we are in a groove. That's all I can say. Whether waiting for the tidal wave of growth.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
coming. I can see it. I can
It's
feel
coming.
it.
I can
the
feel
winds
it
are
too.
changing.
Yeah, the winds of change, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so listen to this. Listen to this. When I was in Maine, Lauren and I, we like going into antique shops. You know who really loves antique shops? My cousin Sherry.
Yes.
She and Dave, I mean, they'll get lost in these places for hours. She's got an eye for stuff like that. So we've gone antiquing.
Excuse me. Are you antiquing?
Jam boy.
I must go antiquing.
I'm
Follow
going
me from the rear.
Follow behind me. Actually, no, forward. Intercept all of the malaria.
Oh God.
Anyway, we're going to we went to a couple of antique shops this time to look around and see what was new since last year. And I found a couple of really great things over there. There was one thing I was going to buy, but I just didn't, because all I really wanted was the forward. And I have an old Boy Scouts handbook that my father had from the 1960s.
Oh wow.
And I want to read that on air again sometime soon. It has an incredible, I believe that the opening there was called You, American Boy. And it's an incredible read.
Wow.
And we did it on the show years ago when I first found it. But I found another Boy Scout handbook, and I opened it up to the forward. And there's some interesting things in there that I really loved. And it was about 8 pages long, but I whittled it down to just a couple of short pages. So it's a small book.
Mm-hmm.
So I only have a couple of things here that I want to read with you.
Okay.
Okay, listen to this, because it talks about boyhood, it talks about nature, and it talks about what at that time, and it was like the middle of the 20th century, a little bit later, maybe the 70s, early 80s, what they thought was already changed about our state and our nature here. But listen to this. One of the great changes in American life, and one barely noticed at the time, took place early in this century. There was a radical revision of the concept of boyhood. It didn't affect girlhood a bit. The existing concept of what girls were like held steady for another couple of generations, and when it did change, it was in a wholly unexpected way. Before about 1915, boyhood was seen by most grown-ups as a state of natural savagery. A boy of 10 or 12 had more in common with wild Indians than he did with his own parents. He probably even had more in common with his dog. Later, he would change, of course. He would undergo a spiritual metamorphosis, as striking as the physical one his sister went through. From it, he would emerge thinking like a man. But now, and for some years to come, he was going to think like a savage. That automatically placed him in a state of war with civilization as represented by his parents and his sister. Natural savagery could be, and was, seen as good and bad. In early New England, it tended to be seen as bad. A boy's will was sometimes to be broken as one breaks a horse. Spare the rod, spoil the child referred almost entirely to boy children. Something made of sugar and spice didn't need that kind of whipping into shape. But in the rest of America, and even in New England after 1820 or so, an unbroken boy was usually seen as good. Boys were little savages. Yes, and one of the great boyhood novels in Ernest Thompson Seton's Two Little Savages about growing up in wild Canada. But like Rousseau's savages, they were also noble. Furthermore, they were innocent, both sexually and morally. And best of all, they were free. Free in a way that no woman is ever in her entire life, or even desires to be. So this old-fashioned view held, that is, free in a way that very few grown-up men were able to remain, and if boys were able to go in large numbers, civilization would perish. The boy had a duty to give up his freedom, except in rare cases like Natty Bumppo and Billy the Kid. But the grown man could look back fondly on his own free youth. He could have boys of his own, and he could raise them to enjoy the same freedom. Part of this concept was common to all of the Western culture in the 19th century and derives from the Romantic movement. It was Wordsworth who spoke in England back in 1803 of the prison house closing around the growing boy. But part of it was especially American, and this part was to be found in its purest form in the Midwest, or at any rate, off the eastern seaboard. In the East, the idea of boy as savage was complicated by the rapidly growing class structure. Son of the upper class and even son of the bourgeoisie tends to learn early that self-control is what makes his class strong. Even at 12, he may be conscious that there are certain things he doesn't do, certain boundaries he doesn't cross. To have boundaries is to limit freedom. If he is a young gentleman, he is hardly free at all, and it is no accident that Penrod in Booth Tarkington's books finds the phrase "little gentleman" used of him when he with infuriating frequency by the Episcopal clergyman who was courting his sister, the ultimate insult to be a little gentleman. But out in Ohio or Missouri, enough of the frontier democracy survived so that practically all boys were expected to be little savages. There might even be something wrong with them if they weren't. Huckleberry Finn, the most famous of the Missouri boys, is the extreme case. He was free of school, free of female relatives, of houses, of manners, and I think it is clear that in Mark Twain's mind, he was even free from having to grow up. Like little orphan Annie, he was to stay forever prepubescent. But Huck was an exaggeration of a real thing. There were millions of American boys somewhat like him, that is, resourceful, adventurous, not much interested in school, very interested in wild places. Savage, after all, derives from Latin silvaticus, pertaining to the woods. They came home to have supper and to sleep. They were more or less grudgingly did household chores, but all day long, if they could manage it, they were paddling on the river or up in tree houses, living happily at the food gatherer level, as savages do. No tyranny of routine for them. In 1850, such a boy was born in Ohio, and of course, they get around to this is, of course, the Daniel Beard they're talking about, pretty much one of the pioneers in scouting. Mm-hmm. It's a Boy Scout handbook after all. And here's how it ends. So he's talking a little bit. There's Holden Caulfield. We're getting into that angle. So it changed its change is easier to pinpoint than to define. If Huck and Penrod are on one side, then Holden Caulfield, Charlie Brown, and Linus are on the other. What the one on our side have in common is that they are neither innocent nor free. Freedom of the kind Huck and Penrod have is dependent on the part of ignorance, and especially on ignorance of the other people's feelings. That is to say, on limited perception. If Huck really knew how Aunt Sally, I remember him from Tom Sawyer, and we're about to read Huckleberry Finn, so this is all, I love this part too. If he really did know how Aunt Sally felt about snakes, he couldn't put so many in her bed. It would give him pain, not pleasure, to watch her suffer. Holden, Charlie, Linus all have adult awareness at ages when earlier generations said boys didn't. And I think it probably really is true that the age of awareness comes earlier for children in the 20th century than in the 19th, and especially for boys. Girls have always reached awareness earlier than their brothers. This can be joyful. Adult life isn't seen as a prison house descending, but as a consummation, especially a sexual consummation. It can be civilizing. A boy like Holden is not easily cruel, but it can also be sad. Childhood deserves to include a time of innocent freedom. It was the wish of men like Beard and Seton to extend that time, which led to the scouting movement, with all its boyish heroisms and boyish absurdities. The scouting movement, I think, was an attempt to delay the changes that took place early in this century, to organize boys back into the earlier mode. Such an attempt is wholly understandable, and what's more, it's partly worked. It has also partly been quixotic. There have always been whole groups of boys in America who would have nothing to do with organized scouting, but what can't be imposed on boys and groups can be offered to individuals, and that is what the handbook does, blah, blah, blah. And I just,
wow. So scouting was essentially a response or reaction to the refinement of boys.
To make them a little bit more unrefined.
Yeah. I had no idea that was the intent, but
at least for some there was.
Yeah.
I mean, the
fascinating.
resourcefulness, of course, scouting is prerequisite to a lot of perhaps military service or militia service, or just just being able to be functional in nature. So it is something that was very practical in a time when we were a lot more connected with nature. But the whole concept of savagery, the way that this was put forward, I thought it was so romantic and incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It resonated.
Yeah.
And of course I had, we were savages in our own little suburban way, but this is something different.
Exactly. So, I mean, at the time that we grew up, right, the refinement had already taken hold. And there was, this is why, they put young boys on ADHD medication, because they're suppressing what could be considered their natural state, at least for a certain period of time. So now the pendulum is swung completely, obviously now, the pendulum is completely swung so far in the other direction. So you could argue whether or not the period of time where, savagery would have been sort of natural is probably beneficial. And if we really work,
and
right?
whatever gender identity, it's not even just about making a boys space co-ed, which is bad enough, I believe.
Yeah.
And because the same goes for girl space. Girls need their own spaces. Boys need their own spaces. And so the whole idea, because co-ed is really one of those things where it just feminizes places that need to be masculine.
Mm-hmm.
That's just really what it's all about. You can say, well, bringing a boy into a girl space makes it more masculine. Like, no, it's not as much as the other way. It taints it.
Nature takes care of that over time, because I remember, as a child, as a boy, you only want to be with the boys, and girls the same way. There's a natural integration that happens eventually when boys start to look at girls in a different way. Then the integration comes naturally. So to short circuit that and to force the integration early, I do think is a mistake for both sexes.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't benefit the men to have little girls around. It doesn't benefit the little girls to have boys around. And again, it's not like that integration doesn't happen. It happens completely naturally, which is, I know, the theme of sort of this episode, that the constant desire to outsmart or outflank nature is unbelievable.
That's why I had to start with this.
Yeah. And it really does seem to permeate everything. And when you read something like that, I had really no idea. I was never a Boy Scout, but when I reflect on my own childhood, spending time in, I grew up in a suburban neighborhood, but there was a lot more woods back then. And so what would the boys do? We always would get on our bikes. I lived in a dead end development, which is no longer a dead end, but we would drive down to the dead end part, because what was down there? Woods.
Yep.
Woods. And we would go in there with just bikes. It was, didn't have cell phones or anything. Just, you go in there with your imagination. You build a fort. You make weapons out of sticks. Whatever boys do, that's what we did. And we would get lost out there for hours with conversation, imagination, nature. I'm not sure that happens with young boys anymore.
No, I'm sure some
who have wise parents.
And in scouting has not gone away, and there
Right.
are other options outside of the Boy Scouts of America, or what used to be BSA.
Right.
Our late great friend Gadget Doc Bryan would tell us about how there are other scouting organizations out there that were very conservative and in the way that they were channeling the original intent what scouting was in the early 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
I think about you pop in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade and you see River Phoenix as young Indiana Jones. He's out on a scouting, and they're all on horseback.
No.
And I don't know if they're in Utah or Wyoming or wherever the hell they are, and they are in the wilderness on horseback. And I'm like, that's a lot different. That's a lot different than showing up at a completely developed campground and being
a lodge,
in a barracks, lodge, having a payphone there, whatever the hell you want, Wi-Fi. And I look at that, I'm just like, wow. I know that was just the opening of a movie, but that was definitely somebody's lived experience.
Oh, for no doubt about it.
And that's just I think about that a lot, because
and I'm sure you probably feel the same way I do, but when I read that, I think it's not accidental that has been legislated out.
Oh, it's not accidental that we are here, where what we do to refine boys, or first of all, boys and girls are stuffed into the same schoolhouses for 8 to 9 hours a day. And when the boys naturally feel like they have ants in their pants, they just give them fucking Ritalin. Or they discipline them and they beat the life out of them.
Absolutely.
You know, so there's that. And now you want to talk about legislation. I've had people get in touch with me, say, Frank, listen, I'm from Oregon. It's not going to go anywhere, and perhaps it won't. But it's Oregon. But it's Oregon.
and I don't even know what you're going to talk about right now.
They don't understand how nature works. Curly, appalled by Oregon ban hunting initiative. Oregon's initiative petition 28, which would, and this is what I was talking about weeks ago, and it has gained more traction now. They have over 140,000 signatures at this point. This would ban hunting, fishing, animal slaughter throughout a state that allows you to kill your unborn child to the day of their delivery date. Okay? The Oregon Secretary of State's late last week announced that they now have 140,000 signatures. If approved and verified, the measure will qualify for the November general election, I guess as a state referendum piece. KIRO, John Curley, was appalled by the chance of this initiative passing. Quote, speaking of really sucky ideas, here's one for you. Oregon is putting the initiative forward. They got 140,000 signatures of people who don't understand.
140,000 in Oregon.
I
know the politics. I just mean like the state of Oregon and the wilderness and the whole.
Insane.
Wow.
Insane people. What they want to do is stop hunting, fishing, and quote-unquote animal slaughter in Oregon. It's one step closer. The voters have a chance to vote on it. If the law passed, it would expand Oregon's animal cruelty laws to cover animals living in the wild, raised on farms, and used in research. The initiative failed to qualify for the ballot in the last 2 election cycles, but they're crazy enough to keep pushing.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, Frank, what do we really need hunting for? We all know that food comes from the supermarket.
Zoso, yeah, I know. Well, tofu,
right? Exactly.
When Thanksgiving you have a tofu turkey.
Yeah.
Well, what do you have? Zoso dude is in the chat room. Of course, you know he is a Oregon native. He says, "I live in Oregon, and I live in Oregon."
Right with the deep voice. I can't possibly.
I live in Oregon.
There you go.
It's my Zoso deep voice. I live in Oregon, and this one ain't popular.
Yeah,
and that's
good.
That's
good.
Yeah, and I see Ozone 61 in Twitch saying it's all from Portland, probably.
Makes sense.
No doubt.
Makes sense.
Just want to see how.
I know.
I mean, tenacious they are.
I was just saying to you before this, right? So over the 4th of July holiday, I went and saw Young Washington. It was a great movie. And then, of course, I've been on a kick. So I've been watching Addams, the series. And it just, I don't know. When you watch the way the children, especially in Addams specifically, but the way the children were treated, what was expected of them, I think it was Addams at one point where his son, John Quincy, was like 14. He's 14 years old. And it's that scene where he basically sends him off to St. Petersburg in Russia. He's like, you're old, you're fine. You're like, so he's left his mother to travel with John Adams to France.
Yep.
And then Adams is like, yeah, you'll be fine. And just go to Russia. And the kid's like, I must do my duty. And I'm like, wow. I mean, and we've got to the point now where we got, 14-year-old boys to no fault of their own. And this is the thing, right? It's been legislated out of them. Now it's just like they need their safe spaces and they can't handle certain words. And it's remarkable when you actually see what it was like to raise people who accomplish things and how much that plays a hand in what the young man will look like someday, and hopefully, in a position of authority, God forbid, if they've been raised with this sort of like, helicopter parenting and the whole thing, and just what was expected of them back then as opposed to what is expected of them today.
I know. And you've got me in the mood to watch Adam's.
Good.
I'll probably watch the first episode when I get home again tonight.
It's so
now.
good.
I
The opening
recommend
episode is
it.
great because it's the trial of the British soldiers in Boston.
And he defended.
Yes, that was what was amazing about Adams.
The fact that John Adams was the defense trial for the British soldiers that were involved in the Boston Massacre.
Yeah.
And it's really something else, and you get a lot there. I know there's a lot that is made for dramatic effect and
right. And I did look a lot of that up because I wanted to see how historically accurate it was, and it does take liberties, but it's it's certainly good enough to understand the basics. And I thought that was the same thing. I thought it was amazing listening to Adams defend his position. And he was certainly concerned about how he would be viewed, but also that he was sort of a slave to the truth and a slave to the law. And he had to do what was right when no one else would. And those are the kinds of lessons that young men should be learning, not,
And Paul Giamatti is fantastic.
Oh, he's amazing.
Throughout the whole thing.
He's so good.
Now you're just talking about men doing the right thing and not being a slave to what is popular versus what is right and good and true. And I have to fast forward from whether we're talking about the founding generation or the early 20th century Boy Scouts. Got to come to 2026. We already did Oregon, and now we're going to PepsiCo. Did you see what happened with Pepsi and this wild cherry tweet?
No, I'm out of the loop.
Okay, so Pepsi a couple of days ago, they tweeted this. The top is the original tweet. They said, Pepsi Wild Cherry is what happens when regular cherry stops asking permission.
I can already tell where this is going.
Okay. Pepsi tweets, Wild Cherry is what happens when regular cherry stops asking permission.
Yeah.
There has now been, as of yesterday, an apology and an announcement that the tweet has been deleted. Our recent Wild Cherry post landed in a way we never intended. We hear you, we're sorry, and the post has been deleted.
Because you live in a world of crazy people.
Bro. Listen, I
don't
honestly
even need to have it explained to me. I already know where it's going.
I struggled at first to understand because I knew it had to be sexually.
Yeah.
It's obviously sexual. But
you have no right to force.
Yeah. How sexually messed up you have to be to find something wrong with this tweet. Listen, I don't have the cleanest mind. My mind is not pure as the driven snow. Everybody at home knows that over the last 20 years. But outside of the obvious cherry reference,
right?
What the fuck upset people about this? And why did Pepsi even pay these lunatics any mind?
Well, okay. So before you go on, that is the first thing that always comes to mind. You can never, just like with Joe Rogan, who did this when they were trying to take him down, the worst thing you can do is apologize and acknowledge them. Because one, the news cycle is so fast, it'll be gone before you even know it. But second of all, you will never win that battle. You apologize to them and they will just continue. If you bend the knee, they'll want you to dig a hole to get the bow deeper. There is no appeasing these people. They are looking for things to be outraged about because they have nothing else going on for them. Again, if they had to manage a farm or somehow hunt for their food or do anything productive in society, they wouldn't have time to get angry about a tweet. And this is the problem.
Or ban hunting.
This is the problem with this civilized society, right? This is the problem when you have gotten so advanced that you can actually be upset about something like this because you now no longer have the need for Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They've all been met. So now we get angry about a Pepsi tweet.
Well, seriously, whose fault is it that you sexualized soda in such a way, in such a crazy degree, that you went right past enjoyment of said soft drink and ended up making yourself mad about an imaginary rape scenario?
Says a lot more about you, sir.
Oh, yeah. That's why I would,
else.
if I was Pepsi, it would just be like, get the social media interns to mute everybody who just mute them.
Yep. I'm telling you, man, people underestimate even really severe things. People underestimate, especially in 2026, how fast the news cycle is. If you just ignore something, it will go away quickly.
It's fucking
Everything does.
It's crazy.
Everything does, Frank. So to me, the fact that they even engage in this, but I mean, that's most likely because Pepsi's PR department probably has a whole bunch of lefties who are like, oh, we screwed up. You know, they probably see it the same way.
We need to fix this.
Right, we need to fix this now. Right?
We need to nip this in the bud.
I can just see all the men, quote unquote men, in the meeting
present.
room. Right?
None present.
Yeah. All in that meeting room of, oh, what have we done? Right? I can already see it. So, you know.
None present, trust me.
Unbelievable. I'm so glad I didn't see that story.
Well, it doesn't affect me one way or another. It's just crazy. But anyway, there you have it. Well, there's that. And then there's this. We won't even get into the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian, what's going on there. And what
have they done now?
Nothing. It was a restoring truth and sanity to American history order.
Oh, yeah.
That came from the president.
Because didn't they have some stuff in there? I think you read about this. I think I learned this on your show. Where they had something about being on time is a sign of white privilege or something in the Smithsonian.
Yeah, well, that actually goes into something new. Let me actually hold on. Let me pull this up.
The same
for
group
a second.
that apologized for the Pepsi tweet.
Smithsonian. Let me see here. African American Museum removes whiteness chart. Okay, that's there. I have it in my archives over here. Let me see if the chart is in this. Oh, please, just get the fuck away from me. Washington Times. Okay, hold on. Smithsonian whiteness chart. I'll just see what I can get on image search. Here it is.
I think I heard this first on your show, and I didn't believe it was real.
It is. It's very real.
It always is. But I'm happy that my default is this can't be real because I don't really want to accept the world that we live in at the moment.
Yeah. Well, so for example, this is the kind of stuff that was featured at the Smithsonian, and there's more that is being pulled out of there, things that are sexually degenerate and everything else that's going on. But just before I get to this next story, let's go through that whiteness code.
Yeah.
This was on the walls at the African American Smithsonian Museum in D.C.
It's unbelievable.
The aspects and assumptions of whiteness, white culture in the United States.
Rugged individualism. Yeah, I remember
the individual
this.
is primary unit, self-reliant, independent. Okay, you get what you deserve is a toxic way of thinking.
Sounds a lot like the founding fathers.
The nuclear family, a father, a mother, and 2.3 children is the ideal social unit. But we all know that we don't need a father. And we should, certain people should have children and white people should not. Husband is the breadwinner, the head of the household. We know we need the wife out of the house and,
so the state can raise the children.
Right.
Yeah.
And that she could be subservient to her boss. The wife is the homemaker and subordinate to the husband. That would be horrible if they are actually a true, partnership.
Family unit, yeah.
Bonded by some kind of a spiritual bond too. The children have their own rooms and they should be independent as well. Now, the emphasis, Jay, on the scientific method.
Oh, my favorite.
Objective, rational, linear thinking is not good for black people to do.
Again, talk about a primer on how to keep a culture down.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, quantitative emphasis, cause and effect relationships, that is dangerous thinking. History, of course, we know where they want that to go.
If you are black, you should be outraged at this. Yeah. Outraged.
Yep, absolutely. And it goes on and on. Time, following rigid schedules.
That's my favorite one. Time.
It is your right. It is part of your culture to be late. and it's crazy. But now let's go to something that's even happening right now.
Steak and potatoes?
So now think. Oh, yeah, as far as...
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, because of course, because Europeans have no culture, right? I forgot.
Steak and potato, bland.
Yeah.
The whole trope about needing to go to a restaurant with your own seasoning.
Right.
It's so shallow. The whole thing's nonsense. But anyway, here's from the July 6th, the New York Post. Activists demand that they're calling it Black English now, not Ebonics.
English.
That carries a
negative connotation?
A negative connotation.
Okay.
That be pushed on kids in California preschools.
Oh, preschool. We got to get them younger. We definitely got to get him younger.
Activists are pushing for Black English to be legitimized in preschool as a way to build children's literacy skills. by
Inverting reality much?
Dude, bro.
Wow.
It's just no one listen.
Wow.
No one wants Black people to be helpless and retarded more than Black political activists.
Yeah.
Nobody wants them to be no one. The Black California United for Early Care and Education is part of a movement to challenge harmful language hierarchies and affirm Black English as a legitimate rule-governed language rooted in Black history, culture, and community.
It's awful.
It's awful. Now I went and
It's child abuse.
I just threw this over to Gemini. I just went to Google and I threw it over there. I said, "Can you please just give me a couple of examples of Black English, Ebonics?"
Yeah.
And here's the overview. They said Black English, linguistically known linguistically as African American vernacular English. They have to give it a very scientific name. The retardation.
Of course.
It's a systemic dialect. They want you to think that this is a dialect. Like if you go to Italy. Like if you go to Italy and you move through Calabria and you go into Potenza and Bari and all these places, and everybody's just a little bit different because they go.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's so for example, he stay working uses the invariant be to show that working hard is a continuous ongoing action rather than just doing something right now. Other well-known grammatical rules and vocabulary in AAVE. Listen to this. Remote present perfect. Been. Okay? Been. I been known him. I been known him. This indicates that the action happened a long time ago and its effects are still true today.
Stop it.
I been known him.
No.
0 copula. He working. AAVE sometimes omits the verbs is or are when standard English uses a contraction like he's working. He working.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. Negative concord. I ain't got no time. Using multiple negatives in the same sentence to add strong emphasis. That's
it's multiplying the negative.
Yes.
Rather than canceling it out. I see.
You
Okay.
know?
Yeah.
We learned double negative.
Right.
We got
grammatically incorrect.
Yes. This is not a good thing. No. This is a strong thing if you're Black.
And if you have like 4 negatives in a sentence, that must mean that it's, we're really important. We're harping on the negative here. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Now,
I get it.
finna is a contraction of fixing to, meaning about to. I'm fixing to do this.
Yeah.
I'm finna go to the store. You can't even just say I'm gonna go to the store.
Wow.
And I mean, I hear that all over the place too, whatever. Yeah. But they get into even more specific grammar rules and all that stuff. And I mean, this is the level of expectation that so-called Black special interests have for Black Americans. They want them to embrace the idea that talking like a fucking caveman is the mark of cultural sophistication.
Unbelievable. I want everybody to listen to your interview tomorrow with Black Conservative Patriot, so you can hear what an articulate man sounds like who's Black. Like what? That's like he's not. Is he the anomaly? Is he not? Are Black people not capable? That's bullshit.
Well, it's not only that. James is not only articulate, but he is an author of several books. I think he's managed several banks. I think he has a couple of his own. The guy's probably like a multimillionaire.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's not even just about having self-respect. And even if he didn't have a penny to his name, he has dignity.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I definitely want to ask him tomorrow about, things like this. When you hear things like this, as a guy who tries to train and coach others in like success in business spaces and how to think for the future, save, how to, analyze financial the finances and whatever the hell it is and build a life and build a retirement. Like, what do you think? What do you think about this? Like, what's a person's real chances of doing something, or at least widespread, because sure, you throw up enough spaghetti against the wall, something's going to stick. And there are institutions all over the country who are very oddly, weirdly bending over backwards to push people who are seriously disabled ahead of others.
Right.
You know, there is incredible amount of privilege that is not going in the way that they say it is.
Right.
So, but I can't wait to bring this up with him because this is nuts.
I mean, it's such an overt, it's an action to keep a culture down so that they will then turn to the state, which is exactly what those who would hold that culture down want them to do. It's learned and fixed helplessness. That's exactly what it is. And it's a disgrace, and people should point that out and not be afraid to point it out, because it's actually the opposite of racist to point that out. Unreal.
I know. And this is where we are. This is where I saw that in the Gemini search that I did, it linked me to an actual Ebonics article that was listed on Babbel. That's the place where I
go to learn foreign languages.
Yeah,
right?
I have I renew it every year for the last 2 years. I got to use it a little bit more, but when I saw that, I said, "Shit!"
No,
I said, "Listen,
way."
Yeah, well, it had a breakdown, a serious analysis of Ebonics as a true dialect of English, which is it's not English. It is baby talk.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just like, it's almost like years ago, there's a lot of people who think that lowering the level, the IQ score at which we consider a person functionally disabled, cognitively disabled, that it was a strategic move, and I think about this here too, and I was like, there is way too many people, way too many organizations like Babbel. You have no business getting in and trying to prop this up, this baby talk. Sometimes she's going to turn 6 in September, and sometimes she's still in the habit of every once in a while she'll say something like, "I go to the grocery store with mom," and I sometimes correct her and I say, "Well, you went to the grocery store with mom," and I'll explain the past tense a little bit more, but I don't push too hard because honestly, those cute little mistakes are fewer and far between these days, and I'm just soaking it up a little bit. But I can't imagine teaching her that talking like a 3-year-old is a sacred part of our culture.
That's teaching a disability.
Yes. It's a learned disability.
Man, again, I can't recommend it enough. Go watch Adams. Just go look at how we started, and tell me that you can see progress in some areas, of course, obviously, but there are some areas where definitively we have actually gone backwards, and I think that's important. I think it's an important lesson to learn. I think you have to learn those lessons if you want to actually forge a path forward. Yeah.
Well, I've got a lot of fun things to do. We're going to jump into some other places where it wasn't broken, but somebody tried to fix it, and that we have a whole second hour. But listen, before we go to the next hour, I really, with you here, I wanted to. I gave Molly and Keto Brainz a plug on Monday. I'd love to just encourage everybody to really take advantage of what Molly and Keto Brainz has, as a wonderful sponsor and partner of this show that is really, really necessary. What they have made available for everybody in the month of July. And it is, first of all,
love that picture.
You've got stickers and limited edition kitchen magnets. This is it right there. I like my tea in the harbor and Keto Brainz in my coffee. There I am, 250th anniversary. But for any purchase you make on ketobrainz.com using the promo code July, you get 15% off. Or if you're a monthly sponsor, you get 20% off. You know the code. If you forget it, get in touch with me and I'll let you know it. But you not only get the 15% off, but you get not only the free limited edition magnet, the sticker that Molly made, and then you're getting an entry into a raffle that could result in you winning over $2,500 worth of prizes, including this red light therapy sleeping bag. But
Unbelievable.
But the thing I wanted to bring up, Jay, real quick, because I want to go on to all the other stuff. Can you please let everybody know, for those of you out there, you know about the creamer. I can't live a full life without it now. I really enjoy just the nutritional aspect of it. It makes me, I know what life with it and without it is feels like. But you don't have to just buy the creamer to get in on this stuff. There's a lot of great stuff on ketobrainz.com, including the Nattokinase. And just, I take 3 before bed. Jay, just let everybody know what, because it's a great price point for 120 capsules there. Aside from heart health, blood pressure support, and breaking apart or preventing clotting, why should people be taking Nattokinase every day?
No, I mean, those are the big ones. You know, you're talking about a cleaner cardiovascular system. You know, enzymes are things that, you know, we naturally produce enzymes, but Nattokinase comes actually from natto, from it's a fermented soybean, actually. And yeah, I mean, the benefits are, you know, the research is still being done, and there's a lot of things that haven't been completely fleshed out yet. But if you're looking for better blood flow, if you're looking for a variety of different cardiovascular benefits, you know, there's evidence that Nattokinase can actually even potentially reverse arterial plaque. So there's a lot of benefits to it. So, I mean, I think taking it preventatively, I know we're going to do an episode where we actually dig in, and I know I've said that I think the last 2 times I've been on, but I got so into the Bryan Johnson thing this last week that I didn't actually look into the Nattokinase as much. But like I said, I do know the research. As Molly said, you can reap the benefits at any FU level. Fibrinolytic unit is how you measure the Nattokinase. But about 6,000 is where you start to see the clinical benefits in the research.
Yeah,
6,000 to 10,000. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting product. And if you don't like natto, which has a acquired taste, let's just say, supplement is probably a good idea.
Yeah, well, I'm not eating anything. I'm going to. I like throwing it down at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and you know, like I said, it's hydration, some nootropics for the coffee that tastes incredible. You don't have to put it in the coffee, put it anywhere else, and the natto just for circulation support and everything. I'm good. Outside of that, it's just trying to eat as many whole foods as possible for me. So, you know, I'm not going to be doing any blood transfusions anytime soon.
We're going to talk about all that stuff.
That's coming up next. So, ladies and gentlemen, stick around, and we're going to jump into that in just a second. In the meantime, don't go anywhere.
Quite frankly.
I'm here with Trisha from Tarot and Astrology, and she's been so kind as to come in and give us a reading, a tarot reading. And so let's get right to it. What exactly is tarot, and how do you use it to predict one's future and all that jazz?
It's a lot of people are real psychic with it. I don't consider myself psychic. I consider myself very intuitive. A lot of people say I'm psychic, but that's a big honor.
Would you like to get to it?
Yeah, and avert the negative pattern.
So I'm like a caged animal that needs to be set free to run wild, kind of.
Could be.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Trisha, for coming in, and we appreciate everything you've done.
You can call me at 319. I live at Muscatine Avenue, apartment number 1. It's right across the street from Walgreens.
Well, thank you again for coming in. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Blessed be.
Thank you very much.
I'm very honored to have this opportunity.
He's been down in the basement since it happened. 5 days now. I think he's having some kind of a mental situation. You know, an episode or something.
All right. I see past the taxi on the
Hey, you better do something, 'cause I don't want to be known as the brother-in-law of the town nutjob. I got enough problems already. Oh, shit. I got water all over myself.
That was nice.
Frank, were you, do you remember do you remember, so our first show together was back in October of 2021.
Yes.
And everybody, I've told this story before, but the famous, I was assuming I was coming into the studio because I was a local.
Yeah.
And you quickly shot that down. And
yes.
Were you afraid that without having at least one virtual appearance under my belt that I could come onto the show and you would be stuck like that woman on the show? Well, you just had no idea who I was, and I could be just like a gum chewing, dead-eyed guest that you'd be saddled with for 2 hours in the studio.
Yeah, if I can assess somebody from afar for a little while.
That's a good idea.
I've had guests. I bring a lot of people on over the years, and sometimes people are a little bit. I try to help them through the best I can,
because you never know how someone's going to be when you hit play. It's like, I don't know. There is a psychological element to it. You got to forget that you're.
Dude, I'm telling you, I've had people on this show that I saw on other shows that have decent followings, not gigantic shows, but I at least saw that, okay, well, they had a successful appearance elsewhere, and they handled themselves well, they articulated themselves well, and when they came on with me, I don't know what the hell it was, but they just really just clammed up, felt a little stuttery. They couldn't get it. They just seemed nervous. And I that happened once or twice over the years. And I just didn't understand why, because I understand if somebody's doing something outside of their wheelhouse.
Sure.
And if they do agree to come on, I am very gentle. But I don't know. So maybe, I guess sometimes it's just in the air, the phase of the moon. I don't know what happens.
That was a great clip. The awkward pauses were the best, and if you could see the host, I don't know if you saw that when they were sitting at the table, he the darting of the eye, he must have been looking at his producer or a clock or something to be like, either when is this over or what do I do now? I can't get this to go any faster. She has to process everything I say for 5 minutes.
Dude, I've been going through.
Was great.
I've been going through stuff that I have not played on the show in so long. Short clips and all that other, and I said, well, they have to bring back. I have to bring some of the stuff back. Here's a few super chats before we get into everything else, and I would definitely want you guys calling in. Stowstube says Giuseppe G and Frank in the Quite Frankly house. What a one! Stowstube was just smoking a cigar on the screen. And by the way, I would love for you guys, somebody out there, to consider becoming a Station ID sponsor on Patreon or Subscribestar. That's where the specialty sponsorship tiers are. I would love to get more people from the audience in at that sponsor and giving me, new bumpers from time to time, smoking a cigar, or, having, what are you, having breakfast, tending to your garden. Hey, you're watching Frank and I'm what. I'll give you the script. It's great. I want more people sponsoring the show and getting involved and getting on screens, please. So Stow Soup says, what a wonderful hump day.
Oh, it is, yeah.
To be enjoying with the best independent media of all time. Love you guys.
What did you mean by that, Stowstube? That's a little offensive. I think you should retract that statement, hump day. That has an overt sexual connotation.
And I don't want you to hump me. I don't even want
Apologize immediately.
Exactly. I don't want this filth. This filth around me. Zoso Dude says, taking another crack at the 1953 $2 bill since I'm related to Jefferson. Get the hell out of here.
What?
I didn't know that.
Thomas? What? Explain yourself, sir.
Thomas.
I love the scenes in Adams when sorry I keep talking about this, but it's just it's what I've been watching the last couple of nights, to get my mind off of work.
Have you seen the problem that Hamilton was from the beginning? How much of a seditious kind of snake?
I don't know if he hasn't.
You'll see.
Okay, he hasn't come in yet. Yeah,
he starts winning the ear. He's almost like a worm tongue from Lord of the Rings, with Washington. He's like, yes.
So I just left.
Want the banks.
I just ended when during Washington's inauguration.
Okay,
so that's where I left off.
How incredible is the inauguration scene where he because that's something that has been noted, that the oath that he took it so solemnly that people could barely hear him saying it.
Yeah,
That he
they
almost
were-
whispered it.
Yeah, and they were kind of like the audience was like, "What's going?
What's he saying?
going on?"
That's something that has been noted by many people who were there. He spoke so solemnly about the oath that he was taking. He meant so much to him.
Yeah.
He didn't declare it. It wasn't, he was very, very.
And again, I saw Young Washington recently and learned a lot about that. Hopefully, that's relatively historically accurate. But what an interesting man. Just everything. I mean, and I just find it interesting because I know so much about his death, but I knew so little about his earlier. So I thought seeing Young Washington would be worth it, and it was. It was excellent.
To think about all the blood he had back then, and all the blood.
And it was robbed of him.
They took.
they
took all
his
the blood. Okay, let's see here. So we have to talk to him about that sometime.
Oh yeah, so it was the relationship between Jefferson and Abigail Adams. At one point, I was kind of like, "What's going on here?" And I think even John, there was a scene where he was kind of like,
"All right,
you think he's, he's
dashing,
yes, and well spoken, and I mean, Paul Giamatti and." I don't know. I mean, not exactly.
Laura Linney.
You wouldn't consider Paul Giamatti to be like a, he's not like a classic handsome man. So, it's just interesting how he's, a little jealous of Thomas.
Well, he was considered, like pretty onerous and crotchety and all that stuff.
Apparently, people took umbrage with that portrayal. A little bit too much, but I was like, I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
That's historically biblically accurate. John Adams. Okay. That's just what it is. But Laura Linney plays an incredible Abigail.
Oh, she did such a great job.
You wait until the end. You're gonna be tear jerked.
No, it was well acted. The whole thing has been well acted.
Let's see here. Shoes of Peace on Twitch. I love the Twitch crowd that is hanging out with us every night. We need to double and triple it. Everybody on Twitch, invite your friends and family to come and watch the show on Twitch. Wherever you are, invite people. I asked Aurora the other day. I said, Aurora, if you were doing Daddy's show and you wanted to reach more people and grow the show to more people, what's the first thing you would do?
Tap into the youth.
And I was curious what she'd say. Like, if you wanted more people to watch your show every night, what would you do? She goes, I would tell everybody to bring their friends to watch the show and tell them to bring their friends and their sisters and their brothers and watch the show the next night.
Word of mouth.
I said, that's very. I just smiled. I said, you're just so sweet. So I'm at the phase now with her where I run complex things. I distill complex issues for me into a simple question, and I throw it to her and any child I can, if they're around, if their cousins are around, whatever I can do, I can just ask them, hey, what would you guys do with something like that? Because there is just absolutely the clear-mindedness.
Yes.
And sometimes you get back things that you can't use or whatever, but sometimes...
Like if she said, buy them all ice cream. Well, I mean, I could.
Well, I give away a bunch.
You do give away a
What
lot of
about
stuff.
Laurel and Hardy trading cards?
I'm going to mail you all an ice cream cone if you sponsor the show.
It's just incredible. At the very least, you get some very calming, sobering, sweet things that just remind you of how uncomplicated a child's view on things are, and that it shouldn't be written in stone that we lose that uncomplicated view on a lot of things just because we're older and we have to pay bills. And
it's an effort to, and this is something we'll talk about more, but there is an effort that should be made to harness and be able to focus some of that. So, a child, it's truly authentic because they are so truly ignorant. The adult, I believe, does better to be able to combine the wisdom with that innocence, because then it becomes even more powerful.
Yes.
Because you can actually wield that in a powerful way, where a child, it's just sort of like limitless energy, but it can't be focused yet.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that an adult has to try to put into practice.
Absolutely. Shoes of Peace says, I was a Girl Scout and did have fun. Mom would not allow her life to be taken over by excessive activities by her offspring. She set sensible boundaries for us. Years later, I did some counseling to mothers who way overschedule their suffering children. Usually at least one person in every home was medicated. Usually a child and often a parent too. I do not believe that there is nearly enough physical activity in today's culture.
Ain't that the truth?
None. I mean, shoes? Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. It is, we are busy. But we are busy, overstimulated, but in not in the right way.
You say this a lot on the show, and I couldn't agree more. And again, all these topics I think are on the table for what we're going to talk about next. But the idea that the human biology and human beings in general were never meant to be able to handle this amount of information at this frequency, at this volume. We were meant to consider things and think about things. I mean, I again. Sorry to go back to the show, but thinking about the fact that you can't just text somebody with a thought. You have to write a letter, and then it has to take time to be delivered, and then you have to think about your response. And now, like, take the Charlie Kirk, the preliminary trial right now. I think part of the problem is that everybody thinks they have to have a reaction immediately. And why? Why can't we think things through and just be quiet for a while? Because social media doesn't really allow for that. But I think as humans, we are much better designed to be able to think things through and act on them prudently rather than just, sort of our first reaction is not always the best. I'm not saying that instinct or gut instinct is bad, but again, the refinement is where it becomes, I think, the differentiator between, a frontal, between the amygdala and the sort of like lizard brain reaction and the amygdala and the frontal lobe, which is reason and rationale that has to be cultivated over time.
Yeah. The Charlie Kirk thing in particular, the social media aspect of it, that or any other story, is actually a little bit that goes into places where we wonder how, what came first, the chicken or the egg, and I say that at this point I really believe that the social media is programming people. People programmed social media. They created computers, all that other stuff. But now social media, because of the addictive qualities of it, it's programming people to act in more impulsive ways.
Yeah.
Where, and I said it last night there too. Part of the part of my daily struggles now is to find and keep the perspective of how much I just truly love doing what I do, and that I'm not just chasing some kind of the pink elephant over here. And I love writing shows for the audience, and I like to think as evergreen as possible, even though the news is partly my thing. But nobody comes to me primarily to have news broken to them at 8:07 p.m. I'm trying to do something else, but by and large, I also, like I said, like last night, I also feel like I could fall behind in the social media growth game just by merit of I have not been trained by the system to be impulsively sharing things and trying to get someplace first or to say something provocative as quickly as it trends, and it's just, there's just a lot of people
that's part of the problem.
It's not even people who are competing for subscribership in a media space too. It's also just people when I was still on Facebook, it was just people in our families it's all throughout the day. I'm thinking about going to Dunkin' Donuts.
I say this a lot to people and I use this as an insult because sometimes on X I use that account to be a little bit more spicy, right? But I say this a lot to people. It is okay to have your inner monologue stay inner. Yeah. And I just don't think that people, engage in that anymore. And I think that is definitely, part of social media. Every one of my thoughts is so important that everyone must know every one of my thoughts. And the fact is, actually, we don't. Shotzi is sending midweek support and much love to all. Thank you so much. And Benny says, you're the best, Frank and Jay. Thank you so much, Benny. And up top just came in from Twitch, Jeannie Yankee fan says, have a great time tomorrow. Anthony will be fantastic. I will try to be live when he's performing. And yeah, that's part of it. Let's go over to Rumble real quick.
Jay Semo, is that who I just saw? Jay Semo says, excellent show as usual. Thanks, Frank and Jay. Well, thank you so much. And Nephilim says, cheers, Frank. Always a fun show. And Jam Boys in the studio.
No.
No, Jamuga was fine.
I'm a natural jam boy, apparently. I just
come, Jamuga. Okay, so here's where we go. First, I'm going to read something and ask Reddit that came by. It's a screenshot that came my way by way of Tumblr last night. Yes, I'm still on Tumblr. I have great enjoyment in the subscriptions that I've curated over the years there. And here is where I think we can kick off the Bryan Johnson and everything stuff.
Okay.
It was an Ask Reddit, and the topic was, what cool fact about the human body? What's a cool fact about the human body that a lot of people just don't know? And somebody called Vault 13 Rev said this. They said, if we were an RPG, that's a role-playing game character. If we were an RPG character, our main stat would be endurance. We are, by animal standards, hellishly undying and unrelenting terrors. These Terminator-esque nightmares that just do not stop. So ancestrally, we are persistent hunters.
This is true.
That is our main tactic for catching prey without fancy weapons, was to just run them down. Especially in our way back home of the African desert. You can still see it all over the human body. We are nearly hairless. This lack of insulation means better heat dissipation. We have a ton of sweat glands next to other mammals. Again, heat dissipation. Another one is our two-legged gait. Walking for us is technically just a series of controlled falls. We let gravity do half the work, and as a result, we use up fewer resources and generate less heat. Quadrupeds, on the other hand, have to do more work with more legs. I mean, imagine being a more or less gazelle of 500,000 years ago. You're eating, doing your thing when this predator arrives, so you run off. Now, most predators, they'll only chase for a short distance and then call it a day. Watch cats, for instance. But this one, here he is again. So you run, and he returns. You run again, he returns. You're getting hot. You have to stop and pant to lose heat, but he just keeps jogging. You run, he keeps coming. You're tired, you're fast, but not for very long, and this stretches your limits. Eventually, you just lay there, exhausted and heat-stunned, and this ludicrous, hairless monkey just jogs over to you.
Great use of words there.
This ludicrous, hairless monkey just jogs over and kills you. That's our claws. That's our sharp teeth. Even without our technology and tool making, we simply don't stop.
So, this is true. I attended a lecture in Montana at the Ancestral Health Symposium back in 2018. I think it was 2018. Yeah, it was. Actually, it was July of 2018. So it was about 8 years ago. And I attended a lecture by a Dr. Mickey Bendor. And this guy, he outlined exactly, he was basically trying to help us understand human hunting, throughout time. And the persistence hunter model was something that I don't think he invented it, but he sort of explained this to us, and it was just a fascinating, we basically drove the megafauna to extinction because we were just unrelenting. We could go, endurance was our, towering achievement. We could just go, and eventually animals would just basically give up. We're not the strongest. We're not the fastest. We're not any of those things. We have this other thing. We are just persistence hunters, which is, I thought it was a really cool term. So as soon as I read that, I was like, this person has done some reading on, on that level. So very cool and very accurate.
I love that too.
Yeah.
So is there any cool thing about the human body like that people don't talk about that you can just quickly say, I thought this was,
Yeah. I got diverted to the Bryan Johnson stuff. I feel like I want to spend some time to try to find some things like that, because I guarantee you that I could find some interesting things. But throughout the course of talking about the Bryan Johnson story, I think we will land on some really interesting things, and we'll do a little bit of teaching, of biology and things like that. But
let's get to it then, because here we have it. Bryan Johnson, I think his motto is "Don't die."
Yeah.
And he's been known, he started getting a lot of attention talking about his seeking of immortality and to at least extend life beyond any kind of a measure that we would consider normal. And then
Which I applaud that part. I'm all about longevity with the caveat that there's health span attached to it. Like hooked up to machines, that's not longevity. But robust, living to like say 120 or something, that's amazing. I'm all for that. So I want to be very balanced with this because I know a lot of people make fun of Bryan Johnson, and I've definitely done that. But as we go through this, because he's got a disease, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, I just want to present, as we do this, I want to present both sides of the argument where I think there's scientific valid reasons for what he's doing and where I think he's majorly missing the boat.
Yes, well, he, over the years, I mean, I haven't really made fun of him as much as his presence has just been a little creepy to me.
Oh, well, that's for sure.
I'm looking at a guy who says, I have the body of an 18-year-old, but I'm 50. And what I really saw was the guy who really did look older, but just seemed white as a ghost and low body weight, and is just tinkering with technology, seemingly obsessed with just turning him into some kind of a droid almost, where he just, even the way that he would report on himself on Twitter, it always seemed very robot-like. And I don't know, in the pursuit, if there was any time in his life when he was just kind of relaxed and a chilled out kind of guy, or if he was always just kind of, odd. But still, he spent millions trying to live forever. And the real question now is he going to be remembered as a 21st century Icarus who just flew way too close to the sun? And here is one of the headlines. You probably saw them all over the place. Biohacker Bryan Johnson reveals he has incurable stomach eating disease after spending millions trying to live forever. And he has this ghostly kind of appearance. And he has, what are we talking about here? A disease which affects 2 to 5% of people, causing nutrient deficiency, anemia, and potentially elevated risk of cancer, says Johnson. And he's unsure how long he's had it.
Yeah, this is very interesting. I dug somewhat into his background, and we can go through some of that just out of.
Yeah, this was the story right here. This is a picture from the story right there that actually got a lot of us to talk about him, because whereas we hear it a lot about, Peter Thiel and his investments in weird companies like Ambrosia, which was, getting youth blood transfusions for older people who can pay for the money. Here we had Bryan Johnson, who was infusing plasma from his young son, and then he was giving his plasma to his older father.
Right.
And it was just all very vampiric and weird. And yeah, but now we're talking about it. It's called, it's autoimmune gastritis. What are we talking about, Jay?
So in the stomach, you've got these cells called parietal cells. And parietal cells produce two extremely important things. They produce stomach acid, which allows you to break down nutrients, specifically protein. It also acts as the first line of the immune system, for the first line of defense, because any incoming pathogens on food need to be neutralized, or else they make their way into the gut. And this is why low stomach acid is also associated with things like SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So the parietal cells produce hydrochloric acid for nutrient absorption, breakdown, and for defense. But they also produce something equally important called intrinsic factor. Intrinsic factor, without going into all the biochemistry, basically is how we are able to absorb vitamin B12. Vitamin B12, for whatever reason, is just a very different vitamin than all the other B vitamins even. It's the only one that must have that acidic environment and that intrinsic factor to be able to be assimilated into the body. So these parietal cells, in this condition, in this autoimmune condition, the immune system has targeted the parietal cells as foreign invaders. So his body is destroying these parietal cells, which means he's no longer going to be able to produce intrinsic factor, which means he will have a vitamin B12 deficiency. And I looked to see if he had publicly released any of his vitamin B12 labs. I couldn't find any. he'll also struggle to absorb iron, which interestingly enough, he's had a history of low ferritin for the last 11 years. So that's just a storage form of iron. An iron panel will use a lot more than just ferritin, but very often they'll look at ferritin. If it's low, they'll say it's an iron deficiency. So he's got chronically low ferritin. He's also a vegan. He says that that's not a factor in his low ferritin. I vehemently disagree. But clearly this lack of stomach acid and the body attacking these parietal cells is destroying his ability to produce hydrochloric acid, which is a death sentence. I mean, you're not going to be able to absorb nutrients. You're not going to be able to break down protein eventually.
And that's something you can't supplement?
You can. I don't know if there's in the medical literature, I'm not aware of anybody that's been able to completely replace stomach acid with supplementation. I use hydrochloric acid for some people as a supplement to supplement the stomach's production, but I've never actually heard of anybody that has so hypochlorhydria is the term for low stomach acid. It's achlorhydria is the term for like no stomach acid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anybody that's been able to treat that with exogenous hydrochloric acid. I should look into that. It's interesting. But then he's also, this autoimmune condition, generally speaking, is attached to anytime you have one autoimmune problem, this is, again, the immune system not being able to recognize self. So it's important to understand that it very easily can turn into other organs being attacked. The thyroid is usually chief among them. And there's actually even a specific name, I'll have to find it, for the shared version of this. In other words, like usually if you have one autoimmune condition, it can very easily lead to others because the immune system is now out of control and it's starting to recognize self, which it should be able to delineate from invader. It's not able to do that anymore.
So let me ask you this, because the real question is, I mean, this you hear about, there's always people now announcing their diagnosis, whatever the hell it is. I just feel like it's a war. Everybody is out there battling something, it seems. Yeah. But of course,
it's true. The
reason why we're thinking about this, this is getting a headline, is because of what he has been investing in for so long. So
$2 million a year, Frank.
But I don't know how much, and I think he's been pretty forthright about what he does and what I mean, I saw some pretty weird. There's actually one picture in here that I had seen before of him doing like fat injections in his face where he looks unrecognizable and shit like that.
What?
Like
that's him?
That's him. Everything that he could do, he was doing.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what purpose that would serve other than cosmetic. So I'm not privy to everything that he's doing. Let's just put it that way. I mean, he's got a team of doctors and spends $2 million a year on his regimen. Most of it is probably wasted, to be perfectly honest.
Well, that's why I wonder how much of that $2 million a year is wasted, and how much could you even say contributed to this? Is there anything? I guess you would need the books to be opened up.
Absolutely, and I got as much information as I could, but I think that I really kind of thought this conversation would be better rather than getting into the weeds of every little thing and but I mean, I actually was able to pull some of his, because he released so much of his personal medical information. Like I have so he was diagnosed actually with hypothyroidism at 21 years old, and he manages that with a thyroid medication, levothyroxine and Armour Thyroid. Now, he called it autoimmune thyroid disease. So that's what he claims on his social media. However, there's no indication that he actually was tested for thyroid antibodies. I couldn't find it anyway publicly. But he calls it autoimmune, which means, so I'm assuming that he's had the test and that's why he's saying that. But the test isn't public. I just wanted to say that because I'm going to call it autoimmune, which is why I'm saying these things could be overlapping. So it's called thyrogastric syndrome. That's when you have an autoimmune condition in the thyroid and this condition that's attacking the parietal cells in the stomach. So it's so common that it actually has a name, thyrogastric syndrome. But like I have his A1C and it's 5.0, which is stellar. I have, let me see. The bottom line is, a lot of his markers look actually fantastic. His high sensitivity C-reactive protein, HSCRP, that's a marker of systemic inflammation, is 0.2. I want it below 1. His is 0.2. It's excellent. Very low level of inflammation. He has excellent biomarkers for everything that you can test. And I kind of think that's where I want to go with this. I think he's operating in the longevity space under the presumption that we know everything there is to know about the human body and that you can test everything that you need to know to be able to live to 150 or whatever his target is, right? And I think this is uniquely problematic because it is also a uniquely Western medical way of looking at things. In other words, he takes a whole bunch of supplements. I can't even remember how many. It's a crazy amount of supplements.
It's like 100 pills a day.
It's something insane like that. And he's got all these doctors that are managing him. So when you guys are listening to this at home, I want you to think about this. This guy has got more money than most of us to be able to do this. An army of doctors that should be able to pick, if anybody could Western medicalize their way out of disease, it should be this guy, right? Mm-hmm. Because he's adhering to all of their tests. He's using supplements to force lab values into a range that's, quote, normal, right? And yet, he's struggling with all of these problems and now, has potentially multiple autoimmune conditions. And so that's one part of this, is that he's maybe not even considered the fact that the model is incorrect. And he's, in my opinion, he's also living very far away from what it is to be human. And that's what I want to get into.
Well, then let me use this as a transition into that part, because I had found this from one Dr. Gonzalez, Dr. Christian Gonzalez, and he's on Instagram. And when he heard about this 2 or 3 days ago, he said himself, you cannot biohack your way out of a disease that is caused by what he says, repressed emotions. And now take a listen to this, and we can just put this into the consideration as well.
For years, he will develop a disease. Yeah, I didn't want to listen to Dr. G here. The world's healthiest man has just been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. Bryan Johnson spends $2 million a year on his body and has 30 different doctors following him. And now he has autoimmune gastritis. That means his stomach is eating itself. And I'm going to tell you why this happened. Bryan is in his late 40s, but he's aging like an 18-year-old. So how is it a man who spends so much on his body gets an autoimmune disease? The very fear of not dying in itself is a stress to the nervous system. And when I watched his documentary last year, I learned that he is living with repressed emotional trauma. And no amount of biohacking will ever touch nervous system dysfunction. No amount of breath work, no amount of biohacking your sleep. It is an internal journey where you face the deepest part. Listen to this clip from his documentary where he talks about his emotionally and physically absent father.
95% likelihood that he would fall through on anything. Like, pick me up from school, help me with a homework assignment, like call me when he said he would, it would never happen.
The reason why Bryan Johnson has an autoimmune disease is he's living with the pain of the father wound that was never expressed. It's a mix of deep rage and deep sadness. In this next clip, I want you to pay attention. Bryan's son goes to college and that reservoir of sadness begins to be exposed. So that sadness is coming up, but pay close attention to this next clip. Look what happens. Look how he protects himself from that reservoir of pain coming up.
So much glue on the side of me, I don't even know.
There it is. Closes up.
Like a blue?
Protection, diverting his attention.
Gray?
Look, here's the deal. You cannot biohack your way out of nervous system dysfunction.
So it has to be a factor because
I wouldn't go as far as this doctor is making the causal link, which I don't think is appropriate. But to say that that's not a factor, that stress, physical, chemical, or emotional stress, we know for sure, absolutely how I was trained, weighs on the nervous system, and the nervous system weighs on the immune system. And so everything, if you think in a systems biology from that perspective, then to me, there's no doubt that it plays a role. But I never, it's rare for anything to have one single factor, right? So I think there's merit to what he's saying. I wouldn't say this is the reason, right? I think there's other physical reasons too. And one of the big ones that I think of when I think about Bryan Johnson, he's famous for being a sun avoider.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, he looks like a vampire.
Right. He literally carries an umbrella. There's a picture of him carrying an umbrella that says UV blocker. Like the umbrella is designed to block out UV light. UV light, the unique light that helps synthesize vitamin D, which is critically important in the immune system. Now, he supplements with vitamin D, but what does that tell you again? A lab value, nudging a lab value, and this is the lesson I really want people to take from this, because I do think that even in an indirect way and maybe an unintentional way, Bryan Johnson is actually doing a great service to a lot of people, because he's sort of a cautionary tale that if you do live your life obsessed with your lab values and I think they are important. I don't want people, they'll say, but Jay, you test my labs. And I say, yes, they are part of the equation, but they are only part of the equation. And I will never tell you, oh, your vitamin D is low. Just take this supplement. You'll be fine, right? No, because independent of vitamin D, the sun provides a whole other host of cues for the body and for the immune system. And we can go into all that stuff, but every cell carries its own molecular clock, and the clock genes directly impact the immune system. So I want to read you something really quickly. These molecular clock genes, they control the balance between two families of T cells that decide whether your body stays calm or it turns on itself, which would be like an autoimmune condition. So you've got regulatory T cells, which are like peacekeepers. They sort of like manage the immune system and help return it to, the immune system is designed to activate when it needs to, but then it must retreat like an army when it's, when the battle is over. The other side is the Th17 cells. Th17 cells, they're the aggressive inflammatory soldiers that go out and attack when necessary. And so when you disrupt the clock genes, which are driven in a circadian biological manner, research has shown that kind of circadian disruption can actually push the body to overproduce Th17. So you can drive that pro-inflammatory, pro-attack, eventually leading to an autoimmune condition. In fact, there was a study done on mice, but still, mice engineered to lose their clock genes developed a full autoimmune phenotype, complete with antibodies against their own tissue, just by knocking out the clock genes. So what that research shows us is that, at least in mice, but it is also pretty clear in vitro studies, so human cells as well, that the circadian biology is incredibly important even to the immune system, and whether or not the immune system reacts appropriately and then retreats appropriately is dictated by light.
I got to get back out in the sun.
And this is what I'm saying.
I haven't sat out there once this year so far.
And what did I tell you this morning, or when I got here, when you were telling me, you're like, I just haven't felt, great. And it's like, so yeah, you can get too much sun exposure and you can get worn down by it, but the sun is incredibly important for the immune system. And that is independent of taking vitamin D and bringing up an artificial lab value. So sunlight, UV, and vitamin D produced in the skin, they influence immune balance beyond just the vitamin D pathway. UV can have direct effects on skin immune cells, nitric oxide, and this sets the master clock and drives the immune calming effects in the skin, which have nothing to do with the actual vitamin D level. So the sunlight is so important. And his avoidance is interesting because I thought your audience would find this fascinating. I just went to break down sunlight because everyone understands that too much UV exposure can be harmful. But do you want to guess how much of actual sunlight is UV, is ultraviolet light? Just percentage-wise of the sun, how much is UV, how much is visible light, and how much is infrared? How much is UV? What percentage would you say?
30?
5 to 8.
Okay.
Only 5 to 8%. And in our mitochondria, we have protein complexes, specifically complex 4, that helps generate energy. And it is called a photoacceptor, meaning it accepts wavelengths of light, energy to run. So food is information, but light is also information for how our cells function. So he's blocking out UV to give himself the appearance, because UV can age the face over time. So what he's doing is blocking out UV so that he will look young. But in a stroke of irony, he is quite literally dampening his immune response, or his T regulatory response, to be able to control the overactive part of the immune system. So he's running away from 5 to 8% of the sunlight, which is UV, which has utility, right? And this is what I mean about he's missing the forest for the trees. Human beings are supposed to be in sunlight. We desperately need sunlight. And if you talk to a dermatologist, which is what I mean about him adhering to the Western medical version of longevity, a dermatologist will tell you the only responsible amount of sun exposure is no sun exposure. How insane is that, even from an intellectual
It's all over the
perspective?
place. Like clockwork, there's always one there's always one baseball game during the summer. There's always one Yankee game during the summer where somebody from a skin cancer representing, or maybe like a former player who represents a skin cancer foundation or something, comes into the broadcast booth during the 6th inning or something like that and reminds everybody to put on their SPF 5000 and to go get full body checks constantly for skin cancer and to stay out of the sun. And I'm just like, guy, I mean, I hear that, and it really is there. Nobody ever talks about moderation.
No, they actual responsible sun exposure.
They talk, and then nobody, if they're talking about, listen, if you do have very sensitive skin, or if there's something going on where you do burn easily and you wanted to mitigate that a little bit, they don't talk about safer products, zinc-based products or anything.
Right. If you're going to be in the sun for an extremely long period of time and you have no control of it, absolutely there are some uses for a mineral-based, protection. Absolutely, for sure.
They don't talk about that.
No. Let me just to put a fine point on this. I found this paper when I was in grad school, 2014 paper, published in Journal of Internal Medicine. The title of the paper is "Avoidance of Sun Exposure is a Risk Factor for All-Cause Mortality. Results from the Melanoma in Southern Sweden Cohort." This was almost 30,000 women, and the results of this study provide observational evidence that avoiding sun exposure is a risk factor for all-cause mortality. Following sun exposure advice is very restrictive in countries with low solar intensities, might in fact be harmful to women's health. It's just one study, women, but they found that the that avoiding the sun was actually a risk factor for all-cause mortality. Just very interesting.
That just means death in general?
Yes. Yeah, from any cause. So, and there's a lot, I just pulled one paper. There's a lot of research on this. And it's not just the vitamin D. It's the things that we tend to think of the sunlight just as a vitamin D synthesizer, which it is. But independent of vitamin D, there are so many benefits, which is why a vitamin D supplement is never going to give you the benefits of sun exposure.
Yeah.
There is benefit to taking vitamin D, and we have plenty of studies on that for things, but you cannot, like Bryan is trying to do, the cautionary tale is that you cannot out-supplement poor lifestyle choices. And his diet is suboptimal. It's a vegan diet. It's suboptimal. So he's not even getting bioavailable iron, and he's struggling with low ferritin for 11 years, and he says it's not his diet. By nature, non-heme iron in plant products is not as bioavailable. The conversion rate is very different in everybody. And, ironically enough, it depends on stomach acid. So he's got a double whammy. He's got a dietary strategy that limits his access to bioavailable iron. And he's also got an autoimmune condition.
He's spending $2 million a year. He could just spend $40 a month at HRP.
I mean, that's the better option. Use the code July30, Bryan, and you can get a discount for anybody who wants to be a member. And you could have learned all this stuff, and I could have saved you $2 million. I mean, and it's sad because I don't necessarily think he's coming from a place of, whatever you think of him. I don't know the man, so I don't, but I don't want to wish anything like this on anybody. But he really is short-sighted in so many ways.
And again, like you said before, the books have really not been opened up on everything that's going on here.
No.
So to say that any one thing in particular is what caused this,
right.
You can't go that far. But based on what has been made public, there are a couple of factors that are going against you, like the divorcing yourself from the sun, our star, and from anything else. So
and everything else. I mean, his from what I see, he doesn't do any kind of grounding, which is an antioxidant. He doesn't everything. He lives in an environment that is foreign to his biology. He lives in an environment with screens and labs and testing, and he's not like out there in nature. When I work out in bare feet touching grass, I feel stronger. There is something to that, and I don't think he ever engages in that, again, based on the way he looks and based on what his labs are telling me. And what's amazing to me is that you've got presumably the most expensive and largest, cohort of doctors you can imagine, and not one of these, or I shouldn't say that. Maybe one did speak up and say, hey, this isn't working. And he either fired them or they got outvoted by the other 29.
I was going to say he got outvoted.
Yeah. So maybe. So I shouldn't really cast aspersions on all the doctors, but it's amazing to me that with all this knowledge and all the testing and all these things that this would happen. And it's, to me, it's just lack of understanding of and respect for nature, and a misguided version of what Western medicine can offer, and a complete disregard for things that would be considered ancient, like, you know, like how much Weston A. Price learned from Native Americans when he came, you know, to talk to them about health, and the things they knew that they didn't even know why they knew, like eating the adrenal glands could protect from scurvy. You know, the Native Americans were what sort of taught Weston A. Price about that, because that's the gland that's the highest in vitamin C. So they would share the, you know, so when they were eating mostly animals, like, well, how do you get your vitamin C? The adrenal gland, right? And it's amazing things like that. And he avoids meat completely. He's a vegan. So
and all in the effort to fix things that weren't broken.
Exactly.
And so with that, I'd like to throw in a bonus topic.
Okay.
Because this nightmare was made public on June 30th, and I saved it for a night that I saw coming soon. And here it is from Matt Krisiloff. He's a CEO of Conception, generating human eggs to help treat infertility. Generating human eggs.
Is he aligned with Bill Gates, who generates human breast milk?
Well, there's a lot of people.
Meat?
A lot of people. I don't know how many of them are people. How many of them are astroturfed, whatever, to make this kind of Brave New World nightmare seem like it's a bright new frontier that's opening up. But take a listen to this. I'm so excited to share this update on Conception. We've generated the first early human eggs derived from stem cells. This is a big deal. The potential to redefine fertility is real. After a simple blood draw, we converted blood cells into stem cells. From there, we coaxed those stem cells to become miniature human ovaries containing the early eggs. There definitely is more work to do, especially to evaluate if this technology is safe, but progress has been staggering. Healthy mice have been born this way, so we're optimistic of its potential. This tech could create freedom from biological limits and genetic disease.
Oh yeah, that's always the promise.
That's always the promise. But for every sci-fi horror film, that's always the promise. It could allow women to have children at much older age, which is what we don't need.
Right.
We don't need 60-year-old mothers.
Yeah.
We need younger mothers that are able to enjoy and be physically, I don't know, just able to handle that, and then be able to enjoy later life.
Yeah,
I mean,
like you said, there's a reason biology works the way it works, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. It would eliminate injections and surgeries for IVF, and it could be a platform to delay or prevent menopause and better understand aging. So Bryan Johnson is probably looking to get some eggs fired into him soon.
In his face.
I mean, dude. And
Wow.
you know, there are people that are celebrating. Congrats, you have willed this into existence. Oh my gosh, will this work on old people? I've frozen 34 eggs. Should I hold off on freezing more? No, just get pregnant. Go out. I mean, just get it. I mean, this. I don't know. I don't know if those are real people or not, but these are the kinds of things that are. I don't know, dude. I actually have a very interesting topic I wanted to bring up somewhere down the line soon. I saw this one woman on Instagram. She was the product of a artificial insemination under one condition or another, whether it was IVF or sperm donation or something else. It was something other than natural insemination. And so she calls herself a test tube baby because it's just a colloquial term.
I remember that phrase. Yeah.
I know.
From when we were younger.
Colloquial term for anything other than whatever.
The way nature intended.
Exactly. And I have the video. I'm going to bring it up because I want to see if there's anybody out there in the audience who has similar experience. She goes on to say that she is living, and she has friends who are also test tube babies. This is her usage of the term.
Is a club?
that all have very mysterious and nagging just physical ailments.
Interesting.
And things going on with them.
Interesting.
And she just put out a call to see how many people feel that they have been mysteriously physically hampered or kind of fucked up in some way, based on the fact that, with the only fact pattern being that they were IVF or they were artificially inseminated in some way. And I wanted to see if there's anybody out in the audience who would corroborate this, because the comment section on that video is incredible. And it again is another one of those, I guess what you would say, biohacks. One that people find a lot of utility and nobility in, for people who just really just want to bring new life into the world. Obviously, there's a lot of political dark sides to IVF and surrogacy that I'm liking it less and less these days. Just because we are just not a very moral culture, and there's a lot of ways that this can be.
Where there's money to be made, there's money to be made.
Misused. Yeah. The lives of the children are in many ways not better off, especially when they're being born and reserved for alternative family units, gay couples. There's a lot of horrible things going on right now, and of course, it's even just single parenthood. And not having complete homes. But not knowing particularly, not really having a very intimate way to go back generationally and understand you and your family's like genetic output, and what you could expect from yourselves, and where you get that, where you get that, that the beauty mark or whatever, or an autoimmune issue or anything else. I know that they say they screen for all that stuff, but I want to bring this up at some point. It's very fascinating. And I
would love to. Yeah. I mean, and going back to the Bryan Johnson thing, here's another question I bet none of his Western doctors asked him, assuming that he has only Western doctors. One of the first things that I will ask you if you sit down for an intake with me, one of the very first things, because I start as early as it gets. I go, we're going to go back to the beginning, like the very beginning. And were you vaginal birth or cesarean section? Because that matters. That matters to the initial inoculation of the baby's gut, which is where the immune system develops. And it's gotten so commonplace now, luckily. We understand the microbiome better, not definitively. In some cases not well, but we at least understand that it exists, because once upon a time we thought we were sterile, and that one of the things you can do in order to help cure somebody is to continue to sterilize the gut. We now know that's not true, but when now a cesarean section is born, they will often take a swab of the mother's vaginal canal, even though that was not where the baby was born, and wipe it across the baby's nose and mouth in order to try and replicate the birth canal process. Obviously, it's not the same, but they do that to seed the microbiome. So I would ask, Bryan, were you cesarean section or were you vaginal birth? Because that can be a factor in whether or not you're going to have an autoimmune disease later on in life. Were you breastfed or bottle fed? Like all these things in the early first 6 months of a baby's life.
Not to cut you off, but no. I really do believe that there is such the quick trigger to get women to deliver through C-section.
Yeah, we got to go. We got to go.
We got to go. We got to go. We need to do it. It is serious.
Yeah.
And it is one graduating intervention after another, with the coup de grace always being C-section. They try to get everybody to schedule one wherever they can sell it.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, again, in certain circumstances it can be life-saving, but it should be a last resort, because it is not the ideal and optimal situation for the baby or the mother, I would say, but for the baby for sure. So those are questions, and these are the things that why you have to consider human biology as a system, which it is, which every hierarchical system, in nature is hierarchical in nature. It is a system. It works in a specific way. And when you try and detach something from the system and think that, again, humans, we've created vitamin D, you can take in a bottle. That's going to replicate the sun. I mean, how naive and how much hubris do we have to have? And we know we don't know everything, but we pretend like we do.
Yeah, man. Chat room is alive and well. I love seeing everybody doing their thing and talking. These are.
And I know these shows mean so much to the audience too, because I get questions and people reach out, and honestly, not to plug HRP, but this is why we created this. It was because, not because Jen and I say we have all the answers, but you should come to be a member with us, because we are actively seeking and we are actively asking the questions that other people aren't asking. You come and you sit down with us every Thursday and you get to hear, like last Thursday, I did an entire lecture on protein that had nothing to do with muscle. Like, okay, everyone talks about protein, and some influencers will tell you don't need to eat protein at all. I broke it all down. It had nothing to do with gaining muscle. Just how important protein is to building your immune system, for example. Like, that's the kind of stuff we do. And then we do Q&A, and you can ask anything you want. And the subject is always different. It's wide ranging, and it's every single week. And that's just one of the perks that you get for being part of what we're doing. And a lot of personalized care, a lot of community support, but that's what HRP is about. It's about asking the questions that don't seem to get asked in this room full of 30 doctors and $2 million a year. It doesn't have to be that difficult. It doesn't have to be that expensive, and it should be accessible to everybody. And that's what our obsession is making it accessible to everybody and giving everybody a chance to at least look, if you learn stuff from or you hear me talk and you don't want to put those things into action because you think that it's too hard or you don't want to change your routines, that's fine. But at least you should be exposed to the information, and then you can make the decision for yourself. My whole thing is people aren't being exposed to the information, or there's too much noise out there telling you the sun is dangerous and seed oils are fine and all this stuff and glyphosate is fine. And I understand why people are confused, and we just try to cut through some of that confusion.
Yeah.
So
I understand it too. And we're coming up on the end here. It is 8:51. And
it was a great show.
This was a great show.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what do you, I know that in the flip side, you and I, we go all over the place, and more often than not, we talk a lot about music and stuff.
Non sequiturs. Yeah.
But maybe we invite, because I know that there's got to be people out there who have some kind of comments or questions on this. Like, maybe we just open up the lines in the flip side.
And if not, we'll just talk about AC/DC.
You got it. So yeah, everybody, if you have something you want to ask Jay, please come to the flip side. You'll probably get through a lot easier because we'll just be pulling from one chat. There's no paywall or anything like that. I put the link in the chat room in a couple minutes. If you can't find the link, you go to quitefrankly.tv and just press play, and then the lines will be open. That'll be nice. Speaking of pilled.net and quitefrankly.tv, let me get to those super chats real quick. Rev says, thanks to you, Jay, I've gotten a real edumucation. A real edumucation.
I see what you did there.
I finna a member dis for shizzle yo. A member.
You're fired, Rev. You're fired.
Let's see here. Stowstube says, definitely humping Giuseppe G with a capital HUMPING LMAFL. Fleet time. Thank you for that. And the cookie and Tommy Jekyll
I feel
says,
violated.
come on, Franklies, let's get Frank to 10K gold pills. I want to start lurking. Me too. Thank you. If we get there, that'd be wonderful. This show, ladies and gentlemen, every night, little tiny goals would really turn the entire year around, and as far as outlook for what new things we can do and how we're preparing. And of course, I'm clearing the way for little baby Luciana. So that is always another wonderful reason to become a sponsor of the show as well. Not only does the work never end, but there's a couple other things that I got planned for. I told Lauren there too. I said, the one thing I can look forward to this year with the new baby showing up in November is that in 2020, I took about a week off after Aurora arrived. And all I had was this studio. And now that I have it at home, what I was thinking was that, I'll probably take a few days off or whatever, but maybe for that first week back, I will just develop a format that is very, very going live. I don't have a format planned, and a little bit more improv and joy scroll based and just taking calls, just because I'm already home. And why the hell not? So I was thinking about that. I think that'll be fun.
You don't want me to come into Studio A and be Frank for a couple of days? No, please.
Jay,
I get your show nuked.
There was a time where that would have benefited me.
Yeah.
That would have benefited the channel. And there was a time in 2015 and 16 where when I went away, I put my show in the hands of people like my friends from Tumblr, like my buddy, my Max and Caparato, my buddy Ben. There's I think The Price of Liberty. My friend, The Price of Liberty on Tumblr back then. He stepped in for me. I think one day, I don't know if it ever happened. I have this very vague memory of it either almost happening or he did step in for me. But Fleckus. I feel like I was going away and I was like, Fleckus, can you fill in for me? I don't know why I feel like it may have happened or it was close to happening. But that was back in the day where just keeping a consistent live schedule was, I mean, that and quality.
It was like the Tonight Show, like with Johnny Carson. If he was off, they just had a
John Barber
fill-in host. Yeah,
John Barber filled in on
That's right.
Yeah, he had quite a few times there.
That's right.
So that was just that was in a day where that wouldn't help me as much. I might as well just take the night off.
Yeah.
It just it's just one of those things. So it's kind of weird, but I would love that.
I'd get your shows nuked for medical misinformation anyway.
Maybe one. Hey, dude, you know what? Maybe one day it'll be advantageous to do again. But right now things are kind of the earth is reshaping itself.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Stove says dozen cookies.
What kind?
Oh, they're all chocolate chip in my mind.
Okay.
Meek Easy. Thank you so much. Amethyst Cat, thank you. Awakened Boomer says, hi, Frank and Jambalaya. Great show as always. Put me in for the loot. Yes, I'm probably going to be doing the giveaway. It's either on Friday night or I'll do it on Monday. I'll do it on Monday and then we'll just start. It's a weird week. I didn't want to just do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday tonight. Tomorrow's going to be odd. So I'll just keep building it up and maybe I'll add a second smaller prize. We'll do it. And let me see here. Let's see here. Frank, I think the USPS price on the Forever stamps go up this Friday or Saturday. USPS package shipping also goes up in July, I think. Do you get items via UPS with Rye in New York? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's from Tommy Jekyll. Yes. That's the P.O. box. Well, it's not a P.O. box. It's a UPS store. But yeah, UPS, they send it there. Tyrannosaurus, tyrant's sore ass wrecked. Jay is a marvelous wealth of knowledge.
Thank you. It's a great name.
Quite Stevely says, I appreciate you, Frank and Jamboy.
Oh, God.
Amethyst Cat says, we love Jay Gulinello nights. And Deansy says, Frank, I just want to say that Juanito, a.k.a. Jamboy, is really cool. Much love, Franklies. And then Amethyst Cat, and then DK end it. I love you, Frank, and Franklies, thank you always for being my home base. That's all I want to be. I want the show to be irreplaceable. It's sometimes you can get breaking news that happens every once in a while. We'll catch lightning in a bottle. But this should be home base, irreplaceable home base. Home is where the heart is.
Yeah.
So that's all we have for tonight. I will be live tomorrow at 12 for a live taping on quitefrankly.tv. I'll get the link out there. But 7 o'clock on Rumble and on YouTube, there will be a premiere of whatever I tape at 12 with Black Conservative Patriot. Tomorrow night, I don't know when we'll have an opportune time to stream, but I'm sure something will happen, even if it's just from the sidewalks of New York City on 32nd Street, and then also Friday will be morning stream and then Playhouse at night. But I'll make sure that it's syndicated at least in part on the Quite Frankly channel. So that is it. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Mark the Carnivore says, I love Wednesdays with Jorge Gulinello. Big congrats to Alberto. Congratulations again, Alberto.
Oh, yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, and I got something really awesome. I'll tell you on the flip side. Something weird happened afterwards. I think is just really great. We are going to the flip side right now.
She was very pregnant at the spring fling.
Yeah,
she was ready to go.
She was ahead of Lauren by a few months, and they took a pregnant picture together. And that was
won.
that. She got to the finish line. Thankfully, she got to the finish line first. Okay, everybody, that is all. We will see you on the flip. The link will be in the chat room. Come on over. If you can't find the link, quitefrankly.tv and press play. No paywall. Just come over to Pilled. It's a great, great time, and I'm very appreciative that is our home base. All righty. See you soon. Thanks again, Jay. HealthReclamationProject.com. His link is in the description of the episode. And listen, you hear our conversations. There are so many people in this audience. We'll never be able to really get an accounting of how many people have really changed their lives just by applying tiny little guidelines that they have taken away from these talks.
Osmosis. Yeah.
And that is outside of the fact that there's a lot of people in this audience who are already members at HRP.
Yeah.
And
don't worry, if you're worried about the live stream on Thursday night getting in the way of Frank, no, we scheduled it specifically so that we get off we literally look at the clock and go, we got to get you over to Frank's. So it does not conflict with anything on Frank's show. And you can use the code July 30 for a big discount this month.
And trust me, this guy, this is a good guy. Him and Jenny, those are two great people to be taking at least some control over your planning for your future. And what you want to improve on, and giving you some ideas, and really putting all of this knowledge we talk to good use. Invest in yourself. It's not a lot of money, and it'll potentially save you a lot more down the line. So, all right. For now, we're heading over to the flip side. We'll have the lines open. We'll be chilling out. God knows what else will happen. Thanks again. Talk to you soon.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much to these Super Chatters. Quite Frankly is filmed before a live studio audience. The Super Chatters are the stars. Mark the Carnivore, Genie Yankee Fan, Stostube, Zoso Dude, Jay Brit, Shoes of Peace, Benny, Shotzi, and so much more across our wonderful Rumble Ranters and the Gold Pillars. More of that coming up. Jump on over. We'll see you there.
Let's get a picture of our flag. Mom, I love you. I'll have some flowers for you next time at the next show. I miss you, and I love you. And you have two beautiful grandchildren, Jesse and Hosanna.
Train roll on down the highway. Please take my problems away.
Will you shut up? No.